Hi, today we're going to be looking at automating your minutes of your meeting using AI, and those will include your minutes, action lists, and a summary of your meeting. Now, there's a couple of prerequisites for this exercise if you would like to follow or replicate this, and I've listed them here. So there is OpenAI, the link is there. It's from platform.openai.com. There is a cost associated with that. It's a pay-per-use, but it's extremely low. I'll be talking about that as we progress through the video. And the other requirement is Python version 3.9. I'm sure other versions of Python above 3.9 would also work, but the one I've been testing on and that I built this for is specifically for version 3.9. And there is the download link. On the first link, you will see that will provide you with a list of the available releases, and if you would like to have exactly the same one as I'm using, then in the second link there with the AMD64.exe is the exact link, and I'll also post those in the comments. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Thanks. Creating minutes of meetings is something that is essential in every business. Whenever we have meetings, we need to record minutes, and we would like to summarize the actions and the outcomes of those meetings so that those meetings actually bear a meaning. Now, I'm going to be showing you today how we can automatically generate a minutes and a summary of a meeting using Python, basic Python scripting, and AI. In this particular case, we're using OpenAI, and we're using a subset tool from OpenAI called Whisper. We're also going to be using the large language model GPT-4 from OpenAI to help us to rationalize the contents of the meeting and to place that in a beautiful presented bulleted list summary document for us afterwards. Now, you're not required to be a professional Python programmer in order to follow this. I'm going to show you how you can set up your system in a basic manner so that you can apply the same principles as I'm going to be showing you here today in your own environment. Right, so there's a few things you need to set up in order to get started. The first thing is you need to install Python. So Python can be downloaded on the internet. It's free, you don't have to pay for it. The particular version that I'm using is here at the bottom, 3.9.13. I'm using a 64-bit version of Python, and that's what I've got running on my Windows machine. Now, once you've got Python installed, it is also important to have some sort of an IDE, in other words, a code editor, some environment where you can open, view, and edit code. There are several ones available in the market. The one that I recommend and prefer for this exercise is Visual Studio Code. Again, this is free, so you can download it from the Microsoft website and install it, and you should be good to go. Now, I've also included all of the source code in this video. In the comments and the links below, you'll see the code repository, and what this contains is a couple of folders. The main.py, which is the main area where the Python script lives. FFmpeg, which is the tool that we use, the open source tool that we use to extract the audio from our recorded videos of the meetings. I've got a sample meeting here called meeting.mp4. And we've got a text file here called requirements.txt, and I'm going to talk you through all of this and what they mean and how you need to use this in order to get set up. So once you've installed Python 3.9 and once you have installed Visual Studio Code and you open up the folder that contains the source code as follow. So all you need to do is, once you've extracted the zip file that I've provided you, right click on where it says source in that folder, and then you can click on edit in code or view in code, and mine is here somewhere, open with code. There we go. Once you do that, it'll open up this folder in Visual Studio Code, and you should be able to see the same folder and file structure as I see here. Now, there's two things we need to look at here. The first one is requirements.txt. What is this? These are the libraries or supporting back-end functionality that we would like to download and load into our Python environment, such as OpenAI LangChain, which is kind of the communicator between you and OpenAI. We've got ChromaDB, which is something again used by the OpenAI system, and a bunch of other stuff. I won't cover them all, but we need to install all of this in the local machine. And the way to do that is you need to do the following. type the path of your Python installation folder. In my case, it's C Python 39. And then we want to type the Python executable path, which is python.exe. We then do a space -m, and this is going to set the environment for that particular installation of Python. Normally this wouldn't be required, but since I've got multiple versions of Python installed, I have to do this to make sure that I install these libraries to the correct Python version. And then we run a command here that is called pip. So we type in pip install -r requirements.txt. And once you do that, it's going to read the contents of the requirements.txt, and it's going to install all of those requirements for the project that you need. Okay, once that is done, we're good to go. You can go straight ahead and open up the main.py, and you really don't have to change much here. I've hard-coded a lot of what is necessary, so you should just be able to open this and follow. But the single most important thing here is your OpenAI API key. Right. So I'm going to head over to platform.openai.com, and if you haven't already created an account with OpenAI, then you would need to do so in order to follow the steps that I'm going to be showing you here. And if you head down to API keys, you can then click to create a new API key. And I'm just going to call this one YT example 1. You'll be able to see this key, of course. So this information is sensitive, which means after I've created this video content, it would be irresponsible of me not to delete that key again. This is not something you want to share because there is costing and billing associated with using OpenAI. It's not expensive though, I might add. In fact, when I was preparing this example data set today, I probably ran 20 or 30 simulations or trial runs of the same process. So I expected a couple of dollars worth of usage, but no, it's only 55 cents. So the cost is really low, but that could escalate depending on the use and if you make your key publicly available. So that's something that you shouldn't share, and I wouldn't be sharing mine after this exercise either. Right, now at the top here, we've just got a bunch of stuff that imports all of those resources from that pip installation we did in the previous step. So don't worry about all of that. What you do want to look at is the video that we actually want to record. So what I've done here is I've created a sample video that would represent any type of meeting structure. Now, this is not a real meeting. It was just a conversation between my partner and myself. Okay, so thank you, please. And all I wanted to demonstrate here is that when we record the screen, and I used an open source tool for that, OBS Studio, all I did was record it and save that as an MP4 file in the same folder as where the main.py file is located. And it has to be called meeting.mp4. If you change the name, just remember in the code to change the file name accordingly. That's all you need to do. Once you've set up your video path and the correct name, and you've placed your video in the root directory and the same directory as the main.py, you should be able to start running the code. The rest here is all automated, and I'll talk you through what happens very briefly. But let's start the code because it takes a couple of minutes to run, and while that's running, I will explain away. Hi, we hope that you're enjoying the content, and there's more to come, so stay tuned. In order for us to continue producing videos and helpful content and informative content such as this one, we need your support. And you can support us by hitting the subscribe button down here somewhere. We really appreciate that, and that keeps us going. Thanks. So let's have a look at what is happening with the rest of the code beyond the video file path. Now, at the moment, we are running the code, and as I mentioned, you could either right-click on the main.py and then choose to run a Python file in terminal, or if your terminal is open, you can enter it just like you would in any command line. Now, looking through the steps, I tried to break this up into steps here in the code so it's a little bit easier to follow. I didn't comment everything, so apologies for that, but it's quite easy to follow, really. And as I said, all you have to worry about is this first line, or this line here at line 21 that says, that indicates the name of the video. Okay, so we're loading FFmpeg, which I also included in the source file. So if we head over there, you'll see we've got ffmpeg.exe there. So that is the tool that we use to extract the audio. It's going to extract that to the file called meeting.m4a. So that's just another audio format similar to MP3. And then it's going to load something called the Whisper model. Now, this is something that is potentially quite large in size. And I'll just head over to the GitHub page for Whisper. You'll see as part of OpenAI's products. And here you can see that they've got various available models and languages. The one that we're using is the medium.en. You see the size here is more or less 5 GB. In my case, when it downloads it, the 5 GB is probably the expanded size. When it downloads it, it's about 1.4 GB. This is something that it will do only once on your machine. So you'll notice this line of code here, whisper.load model. When this runs, this to device is going to save it to your local device. If it already exists on your computer, it won't have to download it again. If it doesn't exist, of course, or if it's incomplete or the size doesn't match, then it will re-download that. But don't worry, it won't happen every time. What's actually happening here at the moment in this progress bar, and it could be a little bit time consuming, but still much faster than manually typing, is it's actually transcribing the file, the audio file at the moment. So if MPEG has converted or extracted the audio from the video, now it's transcribing it. And what's going to happen next is going to create this meeting.txt file, which is going to be the transcription. Once it is done, in step 4 here, we start loading that into our AI model, and it's going to split that that document with all the transcribed text in it into smaller chunks so that we can feed it into our AI system so that it can use that as a reference, what we refer to as a vector store. So we're going to create a vector store, and then we're going to be asking the LLM to summarize the meeting for us and provide the minutes. I also told it to include actions, responsible persons, and due dates where possible. And finally, I said provide a bullet list for those actions. And that is going to then create this new text file here called minutes_final.txt. And it should be done in a few seconds. And then I'm going to show you what that looks like. And it's as simple as that. So to recap, all you need to do, head over to OpenAI, get your API key so that you can insert it here, insert it there, and then make sure that you've got your recorded meeting saved in the same directory as the main.py. Rename it to meeting.mp4, or if you don't rename it, then make sure you change the code here in line 21 to have the corresponding name. And that's all you need to do. Once that's done, right click on main.py and choose Run in Python Terminal. That is then going to run the code, and that will then generate the output for you. And this is almost done. So at any moment now, we should see this running through and summarizing that for us. There's one additional thing here. I actually added something called the streaming standard outcall back handler. Long terminology, but what that really is it's going to show us in real time, as the thought process or the response is being received from that LLM. And here you can see it happening. So now we're creating the vector store. We're using ChromaDB for that. So it's creating that. It's going to analyze the information, and look at that. It starts pushing out the data. This is exactly what we want to see. So it's telling us the meeting minutes, it's the summary, we've got actions with responsible persons, due dates and times. Let's see what else it's going to give us. Wow, that is really, really fascinating. And that's it. It exits with a little bit of an error. It's a little bug, but it doesn't matter because it still produces the result that we wanted. And there we go. We can see the meeting minutes, 26th of June, the time was 1:45. Attendees were Diana and Chris, and absent was Remy. And here we can actually see what was discussed in the meeting, and we can see the actions that are generated from that. And if you actually have a look at the example MP4 that I've provided, then you'll see that it's actually quite comprehensive and very impressive result that we got from this. So there we go. That's all you need to do. I hope you find this very helpful. If you like what you see, please subscribe. That is a way of supporting us in order to create more of these videos, which we'll be trying to turn out on a weekly basis. Thank you very much. Hit the like button and have a great week. Bye.